Unidos Now is a nonprofit based in Manatee and Sarasota counties. Our mission is to elevate the quality of life of the Latino/Hispanic community through education, integration, and civic engagement. And we do this through a variety of methods. We have high school clubs, we have our annual Future Leaders Academy, we have the Future Leaders Academy for elementary school girls, we have one for middle school students, but we also have parent leadership program, and we have FAFSA workshops along with the community workshops that we have today. And due to coronavirus, our job descriptions have changed a little bit, and trying to meet the needs of our community here in the area. That is also why we are meeting online to ensure the safety and health of all of our community. But we still want to be able to provide you all with the necessary information to help everyone be successful. And so that's why we wanted to continue the community workshop today as well. So last time we had a really great speaker from Manatee Technical College, our local technical college in Manatee County, and a representative from the State College of Florida, where we talked about the importance of technical colleges and community colleges as well. And so as a brief overview as to what that looks like, technical colleges are school. We have a couple local colleges that we go and work with frequently, such as Manatee Technical College and Suncoast Technical College in Sarasota. These colleges are for shorter education or colleges where students can receive a license or certificate for a career program. At these schools, there are a lot of variety of programs, such as, for example, electrician, cosmetology. And so these are different career paths that students can take. A lot of these programs take some less than a year, at most 2 years really. And so they're really great opportunities for students who are not as interested in being in school for as long and are interested in starting to work more quickly. There are also some dual enrollment programs at the high school level where you can actually start going to MTC or STC while in high school for free. And once you graduate, you'll also receive a certificate from either of these schools. So that's always a really good option for students. We also talked about the community colleges. I don't think this is sharing anymore. Later. Hold on. Yeah, my screen stopped sharing. Let me try to share that again. But we also talked about community colleges. And so community colleges are, such as the State College of Florida is our local community college. They have campuses here in Bradenton and in Venice. And so it's a great option for students to be able to learn and study in a local place. It's a really great school with a lot of great opportunities as well. Cynthia, can you make my computer co-host again? Thank you. And so the community college have different types of degrees, but frequently have the associate's degree. So there is an associate in science degree and an associate in arts degree. And what that means is what you can do with that degree. So for example, with the Associate in Science degree, it's similar to a technical college where you are able to get a short-term education, usually 2 years, sometimes less, and able to then start working. So some careers are like a paralegal, a dental hygienist, and also the Associates in Arts degrees. So the Associate in Arts degree is a degree where you take essentially your first 2 years of college at a local community college and then transfer to a university. And this is a good option for many students who are interested in saving money or staying locally in the beginning. Also, as you don't have to worry about if you're living at home, paying rent, if you move out of the city to go to another university, but also thinking about maybe you still need some time to think about what you want to study. And so this is a really comfortable place for students to start off. And so oftentimes there is actually programs where you can start out at SEF and then transfer to the University of South Florida. There's a FUSE program there that the advisors at SEF work with you to be able to then transfer to the University of South Florida. And with that, I want to introduce Marlene Aboites, and then I'll give her the opportunity to introduce herself. But Marlene is somebody I met at a presentation we did last year. And so it was a great time getting to meet Marlene. I think we're at similar places in our lives as well. She is really great and is representing the University of South Florida along with a migrant program that she's going to be talking about as well. But Marlene, feel free to go ahead and get started, and I'm going to work on the presenting for you.
Sounds good. So, good morning. My name is Marlene Aboites. I am representing the University of South Florida, more so the College Assistant Migrant Program. We have been at the university for several years now, and our goal is to serve students with farm worker backgrounds. So if you or your families migrated in search of work in the agricultural industry, or you work locally, for example, nurseries, seasonally, you're eligible for a program. But to make this presentation a little more inclusive, I'm going to be speaking about the admission process in regards to the University of South Florida. And then at the end, I'll talk a little more about our College Assistant Migrant Program to detail. So for starters, there you go. As a first generation student, like myself, you could be overwhelmed with a lot of emotions about, feeling excited, but also very nervous about financial stress, just being out in the world all on your own, moving, from your small community onto a university. That's a big change. But there's different support systems at the university that are in place for you to feel comfortable and be successful. So for starters, we can go ahead and talk about the admissions profile. So for the admissions for summer, the average for summer this past summer was a 3.6, 3.8. SAT was 1,150 to about 1,195. ACT was a range of 23 to 25. And for the fall, it was a 4.1 to 4.3. SAT 1,260 to 1,325, ACT 27 to 30. So what this means is that the closer you are to these numbers, the better. The profiles for summer 20 and fall 2020 have not been out yet. However, this is a good idea for especially rising seniors, so those of you who just finished your junior year in high school. It is really important that you take advantage of the summer. Maybe sign up for an SAT or ACT test. Just maybe take some time to study for it first. It's summertime, so I always say, use your time wisely. Some public libraries, is my understanding, are beginning to open up, so maybe you can check out a SAT or ACT textbook. Look for resources online to start, practicing for your ACT and SAT tests. If you are a student that is on free or reduced lunch, then you might want to talk to your guidance counselor, because they might be eligible to for waivers, so you don't have to exactly pay for your ACT or SAT test scores. I believe this GPA is unweighted, by the way. That's just a couple of tips. So for the deadlines, students, it's really, really important that you pay attention to deadlines, just because, if you miss them, then, that can make a huge difference. So for starters, applications open July 1st. And I always say the biggest window for admissions is July 1st to November 1st. November 1st is preferred admissions deadline. So what that means is that between July 1st and November 1st, there is a greater number of applications that are submitted. Just like I said a few minutes ago, it's really important that you take your tests ahead of time. You can submit your application even if you do not have test scores. However, it is highly recommendable that you come in kind of with an idea of where you are in regards to testing. So again, students, make it an effort to study this summer, just before you start your senior year, just because there's more things that are always, thrown at you senior year. So if you can prepare for that during the summer, definitely do so. You can always retake your tests and submit those once you get those scores, so that they can be considered for your application. So for your application, you'll also need to submit your official high school transcripts, and those can be sent directly to the university. I always recommend students to also reach out to the admissions office, send them an email or phone call, just to verify that they have received your transcripts. It does take a couple of weeks for them to process. However, it doesn't hurt to check back and make sure that those have been received. In addition, you also have to either pay an application fee or submit a waiver. Again, if you are eligible for free and reduced lunch, you might want to check in with your guidance counselor and ask for a waiver. You have to save money where you can if possible. So January 1st is priority deadline for financial aid consideration. By January 1st, you should have already submitted your FAFSA application, and Esther will be talking a little bit more in depth about FAFSA in her presentation, and I'll touch a little more about it at a later time. But just remember, January 1st, you should have already submitted your application in regards to FAFSA, as well as there may be other scholarships that you may be eligible for in regards to USF. For those scholarships, you can always check the financial aid office at USF, just a quick Google search to learn more about specific scholarships you may be eligible for. And January 15th is the deadline for a lot of those scholarships. March 1st is final application deadline, meaning that if you retook any test, if you have anything pending in your account regarding your application, that is the deadline. It is really important that you submit everything by that time. It really just depends when students are given a notification in regards to admissions, if they were admitted or not. But May 1st is the admissions deposit deadline. So once you're admitted, there is a $200 admissions fee. However, like I said earlier, there's ways to waive that. So if you're, oh man, I just went blank, but if your income for FAFSA is, if your estimated family contribution, I'm sorry, is less than 1,500, then you may be eligible for a waiver. And if that is the case, then you can contact the admissions office for more information about how you can get that waived, if possible. So to touch on a little bit about FAFSA, as I said earlier, it's really important to pay attention to those deadlines. The application for the 2020-2021 application opens October 1st. So it's really important that students and parents pay attention to these deadlines because, you know, this is free federal money from the government essentially. So you want to be able to take advantage of that so you can finance your education. So for the 2020-2021 application, you are essentially applying for free money for fall 2020, spring 2021, and summer 2021. And the application will open opens October 1st all the time. So those are really important to remember. I always tell students to submit the consideration for financial aid for summer right after they finish high school, as well as for the fall. So essentially, the way financial aid works is that it's based on the academic cycle. So when you fill out an application for FAFSA, it's fall, spring, summer, right? So let's say, for instance, if you are a senior, just, you know, rising senior, I would really recommend that you complete both FAFSA applications because, you know, if you were admitted to summer, then you already have your FAFSA application completed, right? So you don't want to wait until you're admitted to complete your FAFSA applications. Just go ahead and do them. It doesn't hurt. If you're admitted for the fall, then maybe you did the earlier application. I don't want to say for nothing, but just as a backup, if it is the case that you're admitted for summer term rather than fall. And just as a side note, you will need to your income tax return information to complete all of that. For those of you whose parents are undocumented, you are still eligible to receive financial aid, even if your parents are undocumented. Just as long as your parents are filing their taxes, then you are still eligible. And for more information about how to complete your application, you can always look up free application for federal student aid. And there's tons of information about how you can fill that out. And there's also workshops that Esther does around the topic. So definitely encourage you to learn more about that there.
Absolutely.
So in addition, I always tell students the importance of the university life. So obviously academics are number one, they are priority. Hands down, that is where most of your focus should be. Some classes are more challenging than others. There's some classes that are lecture-based, meaning you'll have 100+ students in the same room. Others are more individualized, kind of like high school, where you have about 20 to 30 students. It really just depends on your major, on the institution, For USF, just depends really where you are in your major, what your career choice is, because it's a big university and there's just a lot of options for you all. Student organizations, we have over 300 student organizations for you to choose from. We have 3 campuses, so we have the main campus, the Tampa campus, the St. Pete campus, and the Sarasota Manatee. All of them are part of the university system. So there's a ton of organizations from, whatever your interests are, if it's medical, if it's community service, if it's something as simple as video games, if you're looking for a social group to surround yourself with other individuals who have similar interests in you. If out of those 300 organizations, you feel like there's one missing, then you're given the opportunity to start your own organization. If there's a social issue that really interests you, then you're given the initiative to start one of your own. So employment, a lot of students are, full-time. They're going to school, some are going to school part-time. Needless to say, we all have different needs. We're at different parts in our lives, and a lot of our students do work. There's a lot of employment opportunities in the university, as well as in the communities where students are able to work outside. Volunteering, in high school, there's a lot of students who share about their volunteering experience. That continues when you're in college. There's a lot of opportunities for you to volunteer and to keep on making a difference, especially if there's, like I said earlier, a social issue that you're very interested in. Athletic games, there's a lot of different opportunities for students to have fun, whether that be football, soccer, baseball. There's tons of opportunities for students to take advantage of, to attend games and kind of just get into the USF spirit at USF. Intramural sports, it's always another fun alternative where students are given the opportunity to actually play. They make their own groups, their own teams, and they're willing to play other students and make fun friendships there. There's also fraternity and sorority Greek life, where there's students who join groups based on social and cultural issues that interest them, and they kind of just they host community events, volunteering, and at most, like, they hold each other accountable with academics. So there's tons of opportunities for students to get involved and to kind of get out there. One other thing that I always encourage students to do as soon as they start their university experience, or even if they start off in the college, is to complete internships. Internships are a fun way to kind of test your abilities, to test your interests, right? So kind of, it's an opportunity where you can work in the field of study that you're interested in. And it gives you an opportunity to kind of question, is this the career path that I want to be in? Do I see myself doing this, 5, 10, 15 years from now? It gives you an opportunity to meet other professionals with similar interests who were in your shoes many years ago, who maybe you might be able to find professionals who are closer in age to you. So it's a nice opportunity for you to get to know someone or others to challenge you and to really tell you about how your career path is, currently, and how it's expected to maybe change. Maybe, those changes will have you question your career path, and I always say it's better to question it now than down the road when you've already earned your degree. So a little bit about the College Assistant Migrant Program. I've talked a lot about the admissions process, the requirements, and kind of a little bit about the university experience. Just to make it a little more personable, I come from a farm worker background where my father still works in the fields. So there's a program called the College Assistant Migrant Program, and we are federally funded. We help students with migrant or seasonal backgrounds. So students who were previously part of the migrant education program, or whose parents don't move, but they work in strawberry fields, in packing houses for at least 75 days in a year, then they are eligible for a program as long as they worked in the past 24 months for 75 days. If you are seasonal. For migrant, it's as long as you were migrant at any part of your life, as long as you were in the program and we can verify that you were in the program. Doesn't matter if you were a migrant in the past and no longer migrating, then you might be eligible for a program. So we do offer pre-enrollment services. So kind of like what I already explained, I hope you, the student, and the parent understand the financial literacy behind college, what to expect in regards to the university experience. I help students complete their USF application as well as their FAFSA application if they are eligible for a program. Once students are admitted, if they fit into the eligibility criteria, we admit about 25 students every year. We offer tutoring services for them. So, you know, a lot of our students come in with a lot of credits. So it's really challenging when, you know, you go straight into, I don't know, calculus. It's really cool that we offer support for them so that, you know, they're successful. We also offer bi-weekly academic advising meetings. So students meet with our student services advisor. She is wonderful. She helps our students maintain a healthy schedule in regards to study. She teaches them how to balance their academics, whether they're also balancing family, I don't know, employment, extracurricular, whatever it may be, just ways where we can enhance their university experience. We offer a peer mentorship program, so that's very near and dear to me. As a first generation student, a lot of the times we have so many questions and it can be intimidating to find someone to ask for help, you know, someone that'll understand our background and our struggles. So for me personally, my mentor made a huge difference. She was always there helping me, you know, get used to being away from home, living 3.5 hours away, and seeing my parents maybe once or twice a month was really hard, but definitely establishing lifelong friendships really does make a difference. Friendships that are there to hold you accountable for and will not hesitate or fear to, you know, give you positive advice, to say the least. So through our program, we also offer monthly seminars. We help students get acquainted with the university. So anywhere from helping them build a resume, applying for more scholarships, and internships, kind of learning about study abroad opportunities and teaching them how to save and finance those opportunities. We're definitely there to help them and to kind of explore the different options that are available for them. We do also offer financial assistance, and that is based on family income. So that's on a one-on-one basis that we go over. So all in all, we are there to help students throughout their first year. We are a transitional program, so we want to make sure that during the first year they have as much support as possible so that their second, third, and fourth year at the university, they are prepared. You know, they know about all of the opportunities available to them. Needless to say, through their second, third, and fourth year, a lot of our students come back and volunteer. And that just really shows that, you know, they're a little niche for a lot of these students, an opportunity for them to feel like they have a family away from home, especially for those who come from communities who are further away. But to touch on, in order to be part of our program, you do have to be a U.S. resident or a permanent resident, I'm sorry, or a citizen. Unfortunately, we do not service undocumented or DACA students. However, there are resources available for those specific students. You can also inquire about those services directly to the admissions office at USF. And there's also other opportunities available to them. One of them being the the Mexican American Legal Defense and Education Fund, MALDEF, is very known. That's one of the resources I'm familiar with. But I also encourage students who are undocumented or DACA recipients to apply for local scholarships as well. That's a great opportunity for them. And other than that, just to really ask around and inform yourself about opportunities. But again, my name is Marlene Boites. I am the camp admissions recruiter advisor for the College Assistant Migrant Program at USF. And if you have absolutely any questions, you can contact me at boites2@usf.edu. At the moment, we're working remotely, so that is the best form of contact to reach me. Any questions?
Yes, we have a question on Facebook. Somebody just asked, are they going to be able to pay as residents even if they are undocumented? Do you want to address that, or I can talk about that as well?
You can talk. You can.
Yeah. So as long as you're one of the things about Florida, if you are a resident of the state of Florida, so in Florida that means having lived in the state of Florida for at least 1 year, you are able to pay in-state tuition. You won't, unfortunately, qualify for the federal Pell Grants through FAFSA, but you you won't have to pay as an international student, for example. You'll pay as an in-state resident. Mm-hmm.
So just to add on, a lot of the times, when you do your application, it'll ask you for certain information. So like whether it's you're a dependent of your parents, correct? So it'll ask for your parents' driver's license or voter registration card number, information to verify that your parents are like residents and whatnot. So a lot of the times you can just skip through it and you can correct that at a later time. Don't let that discourage you from applying to whatever university. Because a lot of the times students just pull it off and just say, well, I don't know how to fill this out. I'll just do it later. Just skip through the questions and you can still submit your application. Don't let that be a barrier. It can be corrected at a later time. Mm-hmm.
Are there other questions from our participants? You can feel free to put them into the chat box or even unmute yourself. If you have questions on Facebook as well, I have it open so I can ask. But in the meantime, I have a couple of questions for you, Marlene, as well. So I know that you talked briefly about your experience as someone who went to the University of South Florida yourself for undergrad, and I know that you're currently in a master's program there too. But what are some of the challenges that you experienced, with your background going to the University of South Florida? I know that you had to move away from home. So just can you talk a little bit about that? I know that we have several students here who are in some of our programs who are also considering maybe moving away from home, and what was that like? And specifically at the University of South Florida.
Sure. So a little bit about my background. I live 3 hours, I'm from Palm Beach County. So I had to move 3.5 hours away from home. Family is really important to me. I have an older brother, and I am the oldest female. I have two younger siblings. And so for me, it was really important to pursue an education. When I first started at USF, I thought I wanted to become a teacher. And as I completed an internship opportunity, volunteered, I realized that while I respect educators tremendously, I got to know myself a little bit better, like I said, through volunteering experiences, through internship opportunities. And I realized that I wanted to apply my skills outside of the classroom as a social worker. So in 2018, I graduated with my bachelor's in social work. And and the reason why I made that change was because I realized that, I really wanted to be out in the community, getting to know other young adults, um, specifically with backgrounds similar to mine, and just help them achieve their goal, whether that was, going directly into the workforce, into community college, technical college, or university. So for me, that's why I made that change. And again, I probably wouldn't have known that, I wanted to make that change had I not volunteered in my community, completed internships. When I completed my first year at USF, I always say I broke my dad's heart twice because I'm his little princess. I'm the oldest I'm the oldest daughter. So I'm very close to my dad. And it was really hard for me to move away, leaving my family behind. So when I moved to Tampa, it was really sad. But then once I completed my first year at USF, I decided to apply for an internship in North Carolina. So I moved to North Carolina for summer, and during that summer, I was 19 years old, and I worked in the tobacco fields as a teacher. So I went to tobacco fields, and I taught students who were out of school youth, meaning they were about 21 years old, so definitely a little older than me. And here I am as a 19-year-old teaching them basic English skills. So that for me was a huge challenge, and it made me realize that really that was the point where I realized I wanted to be in the community and help youth. So that's why I always encourage students, find your passion. Like if it makes you uncomfortable, then you're probably in a good spot because you're growing, you're challenging yourself and learning something new. Once I came back, that fall after that internship, I knew, I came back with so much passion and so ready to help my community and to educate others about social issues that I was passionate about. So fast forward, I was really involved through my university experience. I actually became a founder of an organization on campus. For me, I really, really enjoy working with hospice patients. So those are individuals who have terminal illnesses. So usually they have 6 months or less to live. So for me, I was very passionate about helping hospice patients. So I started an organization, and I was able to gather quite a few students to volunteer. And that was something that I really enjoyed doing, and really also reinforced the idea that I wanted to be a social worker. Then later, I also joined a sorority. I'm a member of Chi Epsilon Sigma. So that really also became another challenge for me because there's a lot of negative stereotypes regarding Greek life, but for me, it has been positive. It's an accountability system for me to be surrounded with other women who empower women. That's literally our goal. And so spring 2019, I also started my master's program. So I am a social worker already, but I want to get my master's in social work. So I'm working really hard to make that happen. It's definitely easier said than done. A lot of the times there would be financial stress. Some classes will be harder than others, but at the end of the day, you have to remember what your goal is, and why you started there. You know, obviously exploring different opportunities available on campus, but never forgetting where you came from and why you're there in the first place.
Thank you. Do we have any more questions? Any other questions as well? For Marlene about USF, I know, Marlene, I have seen your presentation several times, and I always like when you share about your own experiences, and then now working for the University of South Florida is really cool as well. I do have a question, maybe a little bit more about campus life and like going to a larger university. So what is like the benefits, and what were some of the, I know especially you come from a smaller town, like what are the experiences about suddenly moving to Tampa and going to a large university? How was that like? And
So for me, it was a big change. I came from a graduating class of 100 students. So that was, just to compare, what my my journey was like. I was the only one from my class to attend USF, like straight from high school. So for me, I was very scared to making friends. But what helped me was finding or exploring organizations that I identified with. So my roots are like my parents are from Mexico. My summers I grew up going to Mexico, and so I have a tight connection with my roots, with my culture. So I joined the Mexican American Student Association. That helped me feel at home too, because I was able to talk Spanish with other students. I also explored the Latin American Student Association. I was able to learn about other Latino cultures and kind of challenge myself making new friends. But I also explored organizations and groups of students who were different from me, because that for me was a big change. Like I said, I came from a small agricultural community where you turn left, there's sugarcane fields, you turn right, and there's probably more sugarcane fields. And so in Tampa, it's a city. I wasn't used to the city life, but USF is kind of like a little city in itself. We have an amazing group of students. Our campus is really diverse, whether that's St. Pete, Tampa, or Sarasota, Manatee. My experience is specifically with the Tampa campus, because that's where I have been throughout my whole journey. It was really diverse, and that's one of the reasons why I really decided that USF was for me, because I wanted to attend a campus where I would be immersed in different cultures and whatnot, and get to know students who were different than me. And so for me, like sitting in my first lecture hall, that was a challenge. In high school, I remember I was an IB student, so our classes were really small. It was only about maybe 25 students, and those same students went to every single class. It was from early in the morning to the evening. It was my same classmates, So I was really used to that like cohort style education. And so when I went to college, it's kind of like you have to put an effort to make friends, I guess, in a way, because in high school, it was kind of like I had the same classes with the same people. So I saw the same people all the time. Where at a university, you really have to make a connection with students, and that for me helped a lot. Sitting in a lecture in larger classrooms, I think for a lot of students that's intimidating. But with the technology, it makes it easy, because your professors are, displaying a presentation, right? But you have, for the most part, access to that presentation on your laptop. So a lot of students are like typing what they're hearing, or they're taking notes. A lot of professors share their notes. It's not as intimidating as it seems. Naturally, everything that is new can be intimidating, and that's very valid. But don't let that stop you from, if you want a university experience, with, a large university system, then don't let that be the reason why, you didn't apply. Like, it gets easier, and 9 out of 10 times, when you first walk into a lecture-based classroom, or a lecture hall, then you're not the only one that's kind of awkwardly sitting in your seat. Find a buddy. That always helps. Whether that's a large classroom or a big class, or a small classroom, find a buddy. Everyone is making friends. I never had a bad experience. I always tried to make it an effort to make friends, just because when I studied, my study habits changed from when I was in high school than when I was at a university. There's a lot of material that has to be covered sometimes. And when you sit down and kind of bounce ideas off of another person, then it makes it easier. A lot of the times you learn new study habits from other students. Some you may realize, oh, like I can apply that's something I can use. Or maybe you realize, yeah, that's not gonna work for me, but at least and you tried something new.
Thank you so much, Marlene. Are there any other questions for Marlene? Last minute questions. There's still more of the presentation, so don't worry. Well, we still have a lot of information to cover. If not, I'm gonna see if I can share my screen again. If you didn't already, get down Marlene's contact information down again. Okay, somebody asked a question. Can you apply for more than one scholarship at the same time?
Absolutely. So the more, the merrier. From personal experience, one tip I will tell you guys is buy one of those, like, what are they called? The accordion folders. I don't know if you students are familiar with this. So one rule of thumb is that most scholarships are going to ask for the same things, right? So they're going to ask for letters of recommendation. They're going to ask for high school transcripts, resumes, like an essay. A lot of, depending on the scholarship, they ask this different questions. So it can be more of an autobiography, or it can be more of an individualized question, like, what are your goals? Where do you see yourself in 10 years, 5 years from now? What's a barrier that you've overcome, right? So my rule of thumb, something that really made it easy for me, was I had like an envelope, an accordion folder, and so I always kept about 5 to 10 copies of everything. So I at least kept 5 copies of transcripts, 5 copies of my resume, 5 copies of letters of recommendation. So I had like about 2 teachers who wrote letters of recommendation for me, my guidance counselor, a couple of community members that I volunteered with, and even my principal. I knew him to the point where he was very nice, and he wrote a letter of recommendation for me. So what I did was, rather than ask, like, whenever you ask a professional to write a letter of recommendation for you, most of the time they ask you, what scholarship are you applying for, so that whenever they address, their letter of recommendation, they'll specifically mention that specific organization or scholarship fund. What I always asked them was, would you be nice enough to kind of just write a generic, like, address it to like a generic one. So rather than saying, Dear College Assistant Migrant Program, you know, I would say to whom it may concern. So that way, if I found out about a scholarship that was due in 2 days, I already had everything. I had my transcripts ready, my resume, my letter of recommendation. I just had to, you know, close that up in an envelope and send it away. You know, and so that for me was being efficient. As a senior, you're gonna have a lot of things to balance, so that made it easier for me, and I was able to apply to quite a few scholarships, thankfully. And the amounts of scholarships really just depend. It can be national scholarships, so you have like large corporations or organizations. You have local scholarships, so local meaning in your community or in your county. You have scholarships through the private or public institution you're applying for. So for instance, if you apply to USF, there's scholarships that you might be eligible for, but only if you go to USF. There is also, like we mentioned earlier, federal aid, which are grants. And Esther's going to talk more about those later. But you know, it just helps for you to stay organized and to just keep those there. Whenever you hear of a scholarship, you have everything ready to send off.
Somebody asked, the scholarship covers all amounts of study or just registration, or what do scholarships cover?
It depends. So it's a one-on-one basis. Some students come in with more scholarships than others. So it's a one-on-one basis. Some scholarships limits, I guess, what you can use it on. So some go directly to your tuition, some go directly to your books, to your rent. It's a one-on-one basis, and that's something that you need to inform yourself. So you know, whenever you apply for a scholarship, more than often it says what you can use it towards.
Another student asks, as a rising senior, should I start the application in July or later on?
The USF application, the scholarship application?
Let's just answer both just in case.
Okay, cool. So in regards to the USF application, I would say the earlier the better, again, from July 1st to November 1st. You can submit it at a later time, but it's just the earlier you have it, the better. In regards to scholarships, every scholarship has different criteria, so different requirements. Some scholarships have specific deadlines, and some kind of are on a roll-on basis.
Thank you. Somebody from Facebook asks, what percentage of the scholarships you applied for did you receive?
Wow, that was like 6 years ago, so it's a tough one. I'll say this. My first scholarship that I applied for was in 10th grade. You know, just because you're in middle school doesn't mean you can't apply to scholarships, or you know, you don't have to start to your senior year. There's different scholarship opportunities depending on your community. It's just a matter of you, you know, communicating with the guidance counselor, any community members that may have that information. I applied to like more than 30, I want to say. Thankfully, I was able to save enough money where I didn't have to worry about paying for college. Thankfully, I'm very thankful for
that. Somebody else asked, are there websites or portals where you can sign up for scholarships that are not related to a specific university?
Yes. So, oh gosh, I'm going blank. Like I said, in every community has different like scholarships, I guess. So as a rule of thumb, there's, like I said earlier, there's like those national ones. So you definitely want to apply for those. But just remember, those are more competitive. There's more people applying for those. Doesn't mean you can't get them. Where there's a way, where there's a will, there's a way. But inform yourself. So Parents, students, you know, meet with your guidance counselors. They are there to help you. They like helping you. So, you know, set a meeting, um, you know, specific to your county. Like I cover the whole state of Florida, so that's a lot of counties I work with, and I can say most guidance counselors have like a scholarship board. So whether it's electronic or in their office, um, they're out there, you know, giving information to their students. These are scholarships that are opening up. So it's really up to the student. Like as a parent, you can push your student as much as your child as much as you want, but at the end of the day, you, the student, have to be able and willing to apply for those scholarships, because at the end of the day, you're the one that has to, you know, go to the interview if you get selected. Um, so it just depends. Meet with your guidance counselors. You know, if you do simple Google searches, you can find opportunities in your communities. And if you think, oh well, I'm not sure if that's a reliable source, you can also contact your guidance counselor. They may be familiar. As a rule of thumb, most places you shouldn't be sharing your social security number. That's really important for you to remember. Students, you are soon going to go out into the world. Most of the time, you don't have to share that. Um, and if you're hesitant about it, again, ask your guidance counselor for sure. Just be careful with your information for sure.
Yeah. And I will be talking about a few local scholarships as well later in my presentation as well. But scholarships.com is a really general one. The College Board, if you create a profile also, you'll be able to filter out through different types of scholarships as well. Are there any other questions that we have? If not, thank you so much, Marlene, for taking the time to talk with us and share with us your experiences and your knowledge about USF and the College Assistant Migrant Program as well. For everyone else, I will continue this presentation. I'm going to share my screen again. I'm also going to put up quickly Marlene's contact information for everyone to see.
So thank you so much for having me. And again, if you or if you know if you're eligible, if you think you're eligible, or you may know of someone, please send me an email. I can schedule a phone call with you. And it's been a pleasure. So take care. And again, if you have questions, please don't hesitate to reach out.
Thank you.
No problem.
Thank you. So to continue this presentation, you know, we're talking about public universities, and I wanted to share what those distinctions are with, like, what makes a public university public. And so public universities, what makes them different is how they are funded. So public universities are funded by the government. They receive money from the state, sometimes the federal government as well. Whereas private universities also, they receive their money through like, you know, the contributions, private funders, or the students who pay for them. So that's one of the differences. I italicized tend because it's they tend to be larger, but not necessarily. So public universities in the state of Florida, like the University of Central Florida, Florida International University, those are some of the largest schools in our country, actually, in terms of population. But New College of Florida here in Sarasota is also a public university, and it's very small. So although they tend to be larger, doesn't necessarily always have to be the case. They also, with being larger universities, tend to have a larger range of majors. So when we're thinking about, you know, what it is that you study at the university, that is your major or concentration. So for example, when I was in college, I majored in anthropology. So most of my courses I had to fulfill certain requirements to get that major. Um, at public universities, being larger universities, have a lot more majors. I went to a medium to small private university, so they didn't have as many majors. So all of these things are important to consider when thinking about where to go to college. If you have a very specific major that you're like, I know I want to do this, look at the university. If you just type in the university on Google, type in list of majors or just majors, it'll tell you the different areas of concentration that you're able to study. And so maybe if you wanted to go to a small university, they might not have it, but maybe a larger one might. And so I don't know if anybody recognizes this campus, but this is here, the University of South Florida, Sarasota, Manatee. The University of South Florida has 3 campuses, as Marlene was mentioning: Tampa, St. Pete, and Sarasota, Manatee. And each of the campuses have different majors that they offer, but they work together. So what is a university, and what are, the components of a university, and how is that different from maybe the technical and community colleges that we talked about at the last workshop? So universities typically offer just the different types of degrees. Typically those are the bachelor's, the master's, and the doctorate degrees. If we look at our left here, these are the 12 public universities in the state of Florida. So I'm going to be focusing on these. But also here are some of the private universities. So what is the difference between public and private? When we think of Emory, that's where I went, Harvard, Stanford, Dartmouth, Howard, these are all private universities. But also the most well-known schools here in Florida, UF, FSU, USF, all of those, these are all public universities. Okay, wow, I didn't know it was going to do this. So what are the requirements to apply to a university? And so there are different types of applications, like a selective application for a non-selective application. So some of the selective applications are for universities who are known to have maybe a higher rank, are a little bit more difficult to get into, or their admissions rate is lower. So the admissions rate is the percentage of applicants that are accepted into the university. So the lower the admissions rate is, the more selective the university might be. And so typically schools that have more selective applications, for example, like the University of Florida, have different components of the application. They're not just looking at your GPA. They're looking at you as a student generally, holistically. So they take into account your classes, your GPA. GPA is really important, but not just GPA. What types of classes are you taking? So let's say you have a 4.0 GPA, but you only take regular classes. But let's say you have a 3.8 GPA, but you take a combination of honors and AP classes, or IB or ACE, whatever the case. They're going to be looking at that component of your application differently, because having a 4.0 GPA with only regular classes is different than having a slightly lower GPA with harder classes. To the university, that is showing them that you are interested in challenging yourself. You are interested in taking college level classes and you are interested in going into college. The ACT and the SAT, this is also an important component for the application. It's not everything, it's not make or break. As Marlene was sharing earlier in her presentation, there was a range of scores. And so within that range is typically the students that are admitted to, for example, USF, but you can also be above or below that, that is possible. But it is important to study for your ACT or SAT. I know that Kaplan or online Florida Virtual School, they have an opportunity to do some practice, a course for free. But also maybe your local library or local organizations have ACT or SAT prep books. You can borrow one from a friend. These are all options to study for the SAT and ACT. And not all universities take them, but as far as we're concerned in Florida, public universities do. And then we have extracurricular activities. So clubs, organizations, volunteer opportunities, sports, maybe at church you're in a youth group or you work part-time. All of these are extracurricular activities that make up your application. You want to let your university know that the other things that you're doing. When a university is trying to accept a student, they want to accept a member of their community, somebody who is involved, who will add to their campus, somebody who may not necessarily just want to sit down alone in their room all the time. They want to know that people are interested in getting involved. And so what are the things that you do? When you're younger, it's best to start maybe in 9th grade when you're just entering high school with a club, for example, and then stick to it. They want to see that you have stayed all 4 years and maybe have a leadership position now, and you're dedicated and interested in growing. It's not necessarily about quantity, but quality, as they say. So are you involved? Are you dedicated? Is this important to you? And then the essays. So the essays is a really important part of your application. The other parts of the application, you're just listing things off. They're all numbers, your GPA, your ACT, you're listing your extracurriculars. But when it comes to your essay, it is the opportunity for the school, the university, the admissions committee to actually hear from you. And so it's important that you get to share what it is that is important to you, and so that they know who you are and what you have to bring to the university. Oh, it's going through. So yeah, so when we're talking about the academic requirements for a selective university, again, as I mentioned, they're thinking about those advanced classes. Are you taking honors classes? Is there an IB program or an ACE program at your school? Are you being a part of that? And so again, for selective, universities, they're looking at all of these things. And the typical unweighted GPA is higher than a 3.5. And so these are all important things to think about, especially if you're younger. Maybe start off taking some honors classes and then move into AP the next year. Is there a class that you're really good at? Do you really like math? Instead of taking an honors, maybe try an AP. So just think about these different components for the academic requirements. As I mentioned, the SAT and the ACT, they have different components. So depending on who you are, is what class would be best for you, or what exam would be best for you. Some students do better on the ACT, some on the SAT. I recommend taking both if you can once, seeing which one you felt more comfortable with, which one you scored better at, and then retaking the one you did better in. And so the ACT has a math, a reading, a grammar, and a science component, whereas the SAT has the math and the reading component. And they're scored differently, they have different skills, they have different times. So all of these things factor in what should be the one that you take. As Marlene mentioned earlier, if you receive free or reduced lunch, you qualify for fee waivers. And so if you receive free or reduced lunch, talk to your guidance counselor, as they will be the ones to give you those fee waivers. And so that's really important because these tests do add up. It's a lot of money. And so if you can get a fee waiver, please do so and save some money. As I mentioned in the extracurricular activities, we have school clubs and sports, volunteering as well. So let's say you volunteer every weekend at the animal shelter and you've done that all the time and you don't even realize, but that's a volunteering opportunity that you can add. You have a leadership position, and this might mean not just in a club at school. Are you floor supervisor at your job? Are you a youth group leader at your church? All of these are positions of leadership that you're able to talk about and able to show the school. And other extracurricular activities are, for example, maybe you take care of your younger sibling because your parents are working. That is a leadership role. You are learning responsibility there. Don't be afraid to list that as well. Maybe you are contributing to the family in a way. All of these things take up your time and help you gain responsibility and leadership skills. So don't be afraid to talk about them as well. And then the additional requirements, of the application as well. So as I mentioned, there are essays. This is an important component to the application process. They are finally hearing your voice, hearing what your interests are. It's important to get these looked over and edited, or just looked over and make sure that you receive help. Talk to an English teacher. They are often really helpful. But if you're going to ask for help with editing essays, make sure to give whoever it is you're asking time. I typically tell my students it takes me 1 hour per paragraph so that students can get an idea of how long the editing process as well takes. So give whoever you're asking for help time, and if you can, don't ask them the day before or the day of to edit your essays. That's why, as Marlene was saying, to be organized and plan these things out far in advance. Set deadlines for yourself. Use Google Calendar or whatever technology it is that you use to set yourself deadlines. I like to set myself a personal deadline before the actual deadline and application is due. That way that everything is done. I don't feel stressed out of submitting something at the last minute and then the internet, breaks and then it doesn't get submitted. Always give yourself some time. And then the other component are recommendation letters. So oftentimes you are asked for 2 or 3 recommendation letters. Typically one comes from the guidance counselor. So it's important to get to know your guidance counselor if you don't know them yet. And they're gonna be having to write a letter for you. Get to know them. Send them an email, go to their office, have a meeting, let them know that you're interested in going to college, what your goals and dreams are. So by the time they have to write a letter for you, they know who you are and they can personalize it better. guidance or school counselors typically have hundreds of students at a time that they're working with. So how can you stand out? You also typically have to have teachers who are in core subjects to write letters for you. So are you really good at math? Do you frequently ask questions in class? Can you ask your math teacher to write you a letter recommendation? Come to, set up meetings with them and talk to them about your goals and your dreams. You want to have these letters be personal. Again, teachers have a lot of students and maybe many students are asking them for a letter. How can they make yours stand out? So let's say you are a rising senior and you don't have any close relationships with teachers yet. It's not too late. Send them an email right now. Ask them how they're doing, and I wish them a great summer. In the beginning of the school year in the fall, set up a meeting with them, talk to them, let them know what you're interested in, and start building that relationship. And especially if you're younger, you have time. Meet with them frequently, update them on your life, and just start building that relationship. So these are pictures of public universities in Florida. I don't know if you all recognize any of them. Here on the top left is New College of Florida here in Sarasota. It's a beautiful campus. It's a smaller university, but it is still a public university. This is Florida International University, Florida Polytechnic, University of Central Florida, Florida Atlantic University, and the Florida Agricultural and Mechanical University, or FAMU, in Tallahassee. So here in Florida, we have an incredible public university system, really great schools. And although they're all public universities, even just by looking at these pictures, we see how different each of them are. Some schools are known for like technology, like Florida Polytechnic, for example. New College is known for their liberal arts, and then we have other universities known for different things. And so it's important to still do your research if you're interested in going to a public university. Each of the schools are located in different parts of Florida. They have different sizes. So all of these things are important to think about. Now, one of the questions we typically get is, how much does public university education cost in Florida? Great question. Money is super important, so of course I will talk about money. So we'll use the University of South Florida as an example, as a case study. So tuition in the state of Florida, this is the same at any public university, the tuition costs. Now the other costs might vary depending on where you go. For example, housing and food. If you go to New College and you're just commuting, it's not this much, but it depends. So tuition, like actual classes, is $6,410. Books and supplies, and this is also every year. $1,200 for books and supplies. Housing and food, $11,610. And then personal expenses, $4,100. Now, why is the housing and food cost so high? Because rent is costly, or even living on campus. As in some universities, if you live on campus, it's actually more expensive than if you rent off campus. So do your research, see if living on campus, there are some pros and cons, and then living off campus, there are pros and cons. Living on campus, you might be able to feel a part of the university community. You're also able to just be closer to class, but also it might be more expensive. Maybe commuting, if you go, for example, to USF Tampa and you're living here in Bradenton. I have cousins and family who have done that and commuted. it is an hour-long commute, but then you don't have to worry about paying rent, and that is a lot of money. So these prices can vary as well. So that total comes to $23,320 a year. That's intimidating, I know. However, there are options. How will I pay for college? We'll see, we'll find out. So the first step is the free application for federal student aid. Complete the FAFSA. The FAFSA opens October 1st every year. So in October this year will be for the next academic year. Marlene was also talking about how the breakdowns are. If you're applying to go to school fall 2021, then you will use your 2019 taxes for the FAFSA. Now the FAFSA gives the federal Pell Grant. The federal Pell Grant is federal, so that means that comes from the national government and is need-based. So that means depending on how much money your family makes is how much money you will qualify for. If you have a lower family income, you might be able to qualify for more money. And it is a grant. So that means they give you that money and it is yours. They never ask for it back. It's not a loan. You don't have to pay it back. And this money is given directly to the school you're going to. So it's not cash. They don't like send you a check or, send you a ton of bills. No, they give that money directly to your university or college. Many misconceptions are that you can apply to FAFSA and that doesn't work for like a local technical or community college. That's not true. You can qualify for FAFSA and that can help pay for a technical college, a community college, and a university as well. In the state of Florida, there is something called Bright Futures. You may have heard about Bright Futures before. This is a scholarship program that is helpful to pay for your university. It's for public universities, so the 12 universities that I was talking about before. It can help cover up to 100% of the tuition costs. So that was the classroom costs. And they can give up to an additional $300 every semester. And so to qualify for Bright Futures, they have different levels. They have the Florida Academic Scholar level and the Florida Medallion Scholar. And to qualify for this, you have to have a specific GPA. So for the Florida Academic Scholar Bright Futures program, they will give you more money, but also the requirements are higher. You have to have at least a 3.5 weighted GPA and at least a 29 on the ACT or a 1290 on the SAT and at least 100 service hours. Now the Florida Medallion Scholar is similar in that you have requirements, but those are lower, but also you don't qualify for as much money. So the Florida Medallion Scholar is a 3.0 GPA minimum, a 26 on the ACT, an 1170 on the SAT, and 75 community service hours. So these service hours are a lot, and we talked about how, part of the extracurricular opportunities are to do community service, which is an important part of your extracurricular component of your application, but also for Bright Futures and other scholarships who ask you to be able to submit service hours for them as well. Now, there are also important, like a step 3. So we had the FAFSA, the Bright Futures, and then you have local scholarships. So here is a list of local scholarships. You can write them down, you can take a screenshot, but all of these are in the local Manatee and Sarasota County area. So the Community Foundation of Sarasota, they have one application, and you essentially apply to once, and you are filtered out and are able to apply to a ton of different scholarships they have at the same time. So with one application, you're applying to several scholarships. The Manatee Education Foundation also has a list of scholarships. The Manatee Community Foundation, Gulf Coast Community Foundation. The Selby Foundation, they have a Selby Scholarship. That is a need-based scholarship up to $5,000 every year. Selby Scholarship is an incredible scholarship. The Selby Foundation, also a great organization, so one to think about and look up. And then you have the Education Foundation of Sarasota. Again, just because we're giving you the list, that's not, you don't just go and apply. You have to look up, when are the deadlines? What are the different scholarships? Make a list. I know Marlene talked about having an accordion folder, and that might be a little bit more outdated, but maybe have a Google Drive, a Google folder specifically for scholarships. Organize yourself, find a method that works for you, maybe even having a notebook that is dedicated specifically for scholarships. All of these are important components as well. Oh no. Can you share the thing with me again, Cynthia? There are also some national scholarships as well. Let me rejoin this Zoom.
I think you need to join again, Esther.
Yeah. Just joining. I'm sorry, technical difficulties. But as I was mentioning, there are a lot of local scholarships that are really important. And it's important to have an awareness of the different deadlines. You don't want to miss out on a great opportunity because you missed the deadline. So, yes. Now, for undocumented students, there are a lot of scholarships that ask for, proof of residency or citizenship. But then there are some really great organizations who don't ask for these things. So the Dream.us has some really great scholarships for undocumented students. The Hispanic Scholarship Fund, they have DACA students are able to apply. The Golden Door Scholars Program is an incredible scholarship opportunity. All DACA or undocumented students are able to apply. And then Immigrants Rising is a platform, so similar to scholarships.com, where you get a list of different scholarships. Immigrants Rising give you a list of scholarships that do not ask for proof of residency or citizenship. They do not even ask that as a question. So Immigrants Rising has a very robust list of scholarships for undocumented students. I definitely recommend that you look into Immigrants Rising. So now, we were thinking about the cost of a public university. And this number is really large every year and kind of intimidating. But let's say we applied to all of these scholarships. Oh no, sorry, go back. All of these different scholarships. Let's say we qualify for $6,000 for FAFSA, $6,200 for Bright Futures. We accumulate $7,000 in local scholarships. Maybe we get Selby, and we get something from the Manatee Education Foundation. The universities also have scholarships when you apply, and when you submit your FAFSA, you can be considered for other scholarships. And then maybe other scholarships. Even when you apply to FAFSA, you can be considered for other scholarships in Florida. There is a Marti scholarships just for Hispanic and Latino students in the state of Florida that you are automatically considered for just by applying to FAFSA. And then we see this number. This number is $23,700. You have $400 extra. So again, to get to this number, it takes a lot of work and it takes a lot of time. But imagine being able to have a fully covered tuition and your scholarships cover your cost of going to university. And then you don't have to worry about taking out loans and about paying money back. So it's a very important component. Are there any questions for the information that I've just given? I know I covered a lot very quickly. If you have any questions, as I said, I'll go back to a couple pages. So if anybody needs to take down the names of these scholarships, I know that we were asked about those earlier. Scholarships even if you're going to a public university, you can apply to scholarships outside, local scholarships, national scholarships. All of that money can still go to cover the cost to go to that college. Are there any questions? Is there any universities that accept undocumented students? Yes. A ton of universities, actually. You can go to any of the public universities in the state of Florida, actually, as an undocumented student. The difference is that you won't qualify for some of the financial aid that they give you. However, if you are a resident of the state of Florida, if you have lived in Florida for a year, you qualify to pay as an in-state resident. So that means that your tuition is the same as the rest of your peers. And the cost to go to the university is the same as the rest of your peers. And that's important because not all states do that. Some states, not gonna name any names, but some states will ask undocumented students to pay as an international student, and those costs are significantly more. So Florida is good in that it does not ask students to do that. You are able to be admitted, it's just the cost or like how to pay is different. There are some private universities, for example, where I went to school, Emory University, that not only accepts undocumented students, but also guarantees need-based financial aid. So the need-based financial aid means that they will give you the type of financial assistance you need to go to their school, as long as you're able to go to their school is as important as it is for them. So they'll give you grants, private grants, to help pay for your school. So looking into private universities is another thought, or looking at local technical and community colleges to start off with as well, to lower some of those costs. If you stay locally and start off at SCF, you don't have to worry about housing and transportation, and that can save you a lot of money as well. Do we have any other questions? To move forward and continue, before we continue on with the rest of the information, I have some announcements to give toward the end. I would like if everyone can do this very quick survey for us. It's important that we get feedback to be able to learn more about how to better serve you all. These community workshops are new for Unidos Now. This is our third one this year, but we're always trying to learn and do better. So if everybody can take some time right now, I'm gonna put this in the chat box. If you can complete the survey right now, it should take a couple of minutes. open it up and complete the survey. I'll also put it for the people who are watching us on Facebook Live. Thank you so much for tuning in. We are always looking for ways to be able to share more information to our community, always. So everyone can please work on that real quick. I'll give you all 2 minutes to complete the survey. And I have some more announcements after this. Also, an exciting announcement about our next community workshop. Okay. So yes, so please feel free to fill out the survey. If you have any questions, you can let me know that as well. But yes, we're always trying to serve you all better and give you all the information that is helpful to accomplish all your dreams and be successful. I'll give you all 1 more minute. It should take not too long to complete the survey. Okay, so we'll move on. And so oftentimes we get asked, what are some other ways that we can get involved? What can we do? And we have some great opportunities through Unidos Now at all of these schools. Listed are all of the schools where we have a club, an Unidos Now club at. Pending Venice High School, we're still trying to start one there, but it's in the works. Besides that, all of these schools have an Unidos Now club. These Unidos Now clubs are student-led. So students run the club meetings, they create the presentations for these meetings, and these presentations are similar to the ones we give. They share information about going to college, preparing for college, career readiness, and they do that in a way that is unique and specific to their school to better serve their peers as students. And so if you are watching and didn't know that you had a school club, you can always contact me and I can get you in contact with the presidents of these clubs so that you are aware of when they have meetings. I know school just ended this week, so there are no meetings over the summer. However, in the fall, they will be active again and they will be having meetings at your school. So, and if you have any questions about any of these clubs, feel free to contact me. This is my information. Again, I'm Esther. I'm the coordinator of education initiatives. That is my email address. That is my work phone number. You can feel free to call or text me. Just let me know your name and I will get back to you as soon as I can. If you needed more information from the slides or any clarification or wanted more information about the clubs, feel free to contact me. And then follow us on Facebook, Instagram, go to our website. We are always posting great information of not just the events that we do, but different scholarship opportunities or workshops in the community. And then also community workshops. We're live on Facebook right now, so thank you to everyone joining us on Facebook as well. And so next time, our next session is on June 27th at 10:30. It's all about private universities. So today we talked about public universities. We had a guest speaker from the University of South Florida. In June, we are having a guest speaker from the admissions office of Emory University, my alma mater. Will Segura, he's going to be with us and talking about private universities and specifically Emory University. As I mentioned, Emory University is very friendly to undocumented and DACA students, accepting and giving full financial aid to students as well based on need. So if you're interested in learning more about Emory University, have never heard of it, but are interested also in just learning about private universities, I recommend that you attend on June 27th. It is the same link to join the Zoom, and will also be on Facebook Live as well. So definitely recommend that not only you come, but you share this information with other people. This workshop will be on our Facebook now that we went live. So you can always access this public university live or Facebook video again. Are there any last minute questions, any thoughts, any comments? We are really excited that you joined us Saturday morning, the week after school ended. So we know that it's been a long week, but we really appreciate you all for joining us. And as always, share this information. Don't keep it only to yourself, but share with as many people as possible. Share the videos and invite them to our next workshops. Okay. If there are no other questions or comments, I'm going to go back to my contact information page. If you need anything, I'm always here. But thank you so much for joining today. And we are excited to help you dream big. So thank you.